friends and familiars. This is Matt Orozco from Macabre Daily, and I am beyond excited to be joined by Lauren Staerck, who is one of the stars of the upcoming film Cinderella's Revenge. For those that aren't aware, Cinderella's Revenge will be out in theaters next Friday, not this Friday, but the next one on April 26th. Here in the US, we can go ahead and see that at Regal. But Lauren, thank you so much for spending some time with us and talking about the film.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Well, I know we're a little short on time, so I will get to the questions. First one is, there's varying versions of Cinderella that have permeated throughout time. And I'm curious to know across the different medias and mediums you've seen it presented on, if it shaped your performance at all, and if there are other performances or iterations that you use as kind of a reference point to help build your own unique character.
Yeah, so I really loved Lily James's version of Cinderella. I feel like she just done such a beautiful job of playing her. So I definitely used her at the start of the film. I used her as a reference a lot. I think I even had her as my screensaver on my phone because I kept looking at her and I was like playing her song over and over that she sings in the Cinderella film. So I definitely used her as a reference. But then obviously throughout the film, Cinderella goes through so much trauma and she really changes. And at that point, I then used Harley Quinn as more of an idol with Margot Robbie, of course.
It's funny. I can see that in the performance. It's kind of how the change in character occurs. You kind of have this sweet to sour, and then a little bit of both at the final, I guess the final era that you're in the film, if you will.
Yeah, she really goes through it.
Well, another part I think that was really impactful of the film is just the location and the setting. It adds a lot of whimsy to, what is clearly a fairy tale story, albeit a bit more gruesome than normal. Where did you all film the majority of the shots, and what was it like working out there? Did you hit any snags, access to technology, or just was it mostly done on sets?
So we actually mostly filmed in this beautiful castle, just outside of London. It was so gorgeous. It was like, honestly, walking into there, I felt like Cinderella. I was like, this is perfect. You couldn't get a more perfect location. And it just felt like as soon as we got there, the magic had started with it. And we also filmed in like a really cute little cottage, like a kind of Disney princess where you'd probably imagine like Snow White to live, that kind of cottage feel. And that was also really, really lovely. So being on set, like the location, whoever sorted out the locations done such a wonderful job. It just made you feel like you was in that time era and you was in that movie.
Yeah, I
And
think
we didn't
it's
really have any, sorry, yeah, we didn't have any like connection problems much. I think everything was quite, in England, it's so small here. So everything's like kind of close to London. So I feel like, oh, we did have the fire brigade turn up though at one point,
oh
which was
no.
quite funny. Yeah, I was like, oh no.
Was it just a random checkup, or was there a problem on the set?
We had a lot of like smoke and stuff, and I think somebody must have called the fire. It was funny, one of the firefighters knew me, so he was like, is Lauren here, is she filming in here? And I was like, what? This is so strange. So what's going on? I thought they was having me on. I was like, if you set me up here, like who is this guy?
It's all of
But
a
yeah, it
sudden
was
became a
really
prank
fun.
episode.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on? We're like halfway through this scene. Bloody fire
Well,
engines outside.
well, it makes it a little more exciting, I guess, a little story to take away from the set. But having been to Europe a handful of times, I know that we obviously have kind of a history and an architecture from that history that makes it so much more apt to be able to film and kind of get some of those more enchanting looks. But of course, I'm always curious to know kind of how modernized, because having been in a few older chateaus in my life, sometimes the connectivity is always a bit difficult. But sounds like this case just more about letting the fire brigade know next time is probably the best move.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
as far as like the most rewarding and challenging parts of the process for you, what would you say those were?
I would say the most rewarding part was probably just being able to. We didn't have like a huge amount of time to film this. It was quite the schedules were quite tight, and just being able to get all of the shots done and like throwing myself into each scene and being all like, you know how films are, they're all backwards. You got like, you got the first scene and then you got like the last scene in the same day, and
Yeah.
just being able to, yeah, to go with that and flow with it and make it work was really a good achievement for me, and at the same time also a challenge as well, because it wasn't like the easiest thing to do, to have to put so much emotion into some of these scenes in such a short period of time. I would have loved to have like more time with it, but I think with the time that we got, we made it work, and that is a massive achievement for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, shooting schedules are always really tough, especially in more independent productions where you tend to have, more tight timelines, but also a need to kind of keep to them just due to budgetary reasons. So, it always is a huge accomplishment to get through the process. But you're also no stranger to the horror genre. You've been in quite a few films um, in your previous work. So I'm curious to know, do you have kind of an affinity for the genre outside of your work in it? And if so, do you have like a top four that your four favorite horror films?
Yeah, I love horror. I've always loved horror. My dad used to make my dad it sounds bad. I had two brothers growing up and they loved watching The Grudge. Like I don't know why, but for so many years I thought The Grudge lived under my bed because of my brothers, and I was so scared of this bloody Grudge. But I've always loved horror, and I think because I watched it from such a young age, I didn't it never it does freak me out, it does scare me, but at the same time I enjoy seeing how it's filmed, and like I'm working it out in my head now, especially from doing so much horror. I'm always working out like how did they film that. It's so cool to watch it from an actor's point of view as well. But yeah, I've always loved horror. Going to the cinema, I feel like it needs to be a horror because it needs to be
Yeah.
something exciting and like has you on the edge of your chair. And I'll always go with my brothers as well now. And my top favorites recently, I quite like this psychological thriller. It was The Invisible Man,
Oh
because it is
yeah.
so real and it's so like we've got the technology in it, and it's really freaky. It really freaked me out. And I also love a good old zombie film, but I wouldn't really say that horror because they don't scare me too much. Um the more kind of films that scare me are like exorcism films, and they're like my oh have me really like hiding and screaming. And also clowns as well, so it was a good one. I liked the comedy in it. There was a lot of
Mm,
comedy, and I love when you've got a scary film but you've got a little bit of comedy as well. I think it's just because it takes the edge off of it. So The Invisible Man, I really liked the new Scream that just come out as well. I enjoyed
yeah.
that one. And I also liked was the exorcism in I've got this wrong. The Exorcism in Italy, or
The Pope's
I
Exorcist, was that the one with Russell Crowe?
think so. Yeah, I think that was really good as well. I watched that in the cinema and I enjoyed that. So yeah, they're my top fours.
Oh, oh, maybe it was A Haunting in Venice. There could be other
That's the
ones.
one.
Yeah.
Yes, Haunting in Venice. Yeah, I was totally wrong.
Yeah, well, it's interestingly enough, just like The Grudge was kind of your under the bed monster, the original It was mine. I wouldn't get off my bed
Oh,
for an entire day when I was 5 years old because of that at first scene, where he pulls Georgie under. I thought there's a clown under my bed. So, that's safe to say I can get
um,
off of bed now without fear, but it was traumatizing
thank
for that
God.
one day.
My dog hid under my bed once when I was really young, and I was like, what is that under my bed? I was like, they're right, the Grudge is under there. I was like looking under. I went to grab her, and she's obviously I put my hand on her. Scariest moment of my life, I think, to this day. But then I realized it was my dog, so always
It's
fine.
right here, right? The head will always scare us more than whatever is actually out there. And so I think that's part of what makes horror so exciting is the ability to continue to thrill and engage the audience. Even if you've seen it before, you may not see it this way. And I'm curious to know, like, there has been this kind of trend, if you will, of seeing childhood stories and characters being brought back, but into the horror genre. So I'm curious to know, is there any other fairy tale characters or stories that you think would make perfect fodder for a horror film,
Yeah, I would say Beauty and the Beast. I feel like the Beast, we could do so much with him. Like
right?
we could make him into an exorcism kind of beast or something like the devil one. I feel like that would be definitely a good storyline to watch turn evil. Um and also I mean I love Peter Pan so much. That was my favorite film growing up. And I've heard that there's like a new one of those coming out, so that would be quite interesting to see what they do with Captain Hook.
Yeah, I think one of your old colleagues has taken the helm on that one. Is Reese Frake Waterfeld, I think, is taking over the Peter
Yes.
Pan film. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we'll see him. Maybe we'll see you in a Wendy role or something like that in the future, but we'll never know. As last question for you, Lauren, is if you were to program a double feature with Cinderella's Revenge, what would you put either before or after your film?
If I had to put together a program to be seen, right, in the cinema, is that what you mean?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
one of them
So
is Cinderella's Revenge, the other one is your choice.
okay, after another film. Um, that is a good question. I'm gonna go Cinderella's Revenge. I'm gonna go with something like with Harley Quinn in it. I feel like something below the belt and out there, something crazy. Like, what was her latest film that she done? Birds of Prey.
Right?
I'll go with a bit of Birds of Prey.
I love it. It's women scorned run amok against their oppressors. It would go off swimmingly.
Yeah, perfect. Women empowering.
Well, Lauren, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. And for everyone that's watching this, please go out to your theaters on April 26th. Check out Cinderella's Revenge. I'm sure it's going to be out for a limited time, so catch it in the theaters. As Lauren's told us, the best time to watch a horror movie, the best place to watch a horror movie is the theaters. And before we sign off, Lauren, is there anything else you'd like to promote or talk about as far as what's coming up next for you?
Um, Not at the moment, actually. I feel like things have gone. I've got quite a few auditions coming up, but nothing crazy to talk about at the moment. Unfortunately, I wish there was something I could give you, but
Well,
hopefully soon.
yeah, well, I'm sure, I'm sure we're all hoping to see you again in another genre film, but of course, you have a wide, diverse range. So, of course, whatever work you get, I'm sure you'll do great. Thank you, Lauren. Please, everyone, again, check out Cinderella's Revenge in your Regal Theaters on April 26th. And Lauren, thank you so much. Hope to talk to you again for the next film.
Thank you, Matt. Bye. Have a nice
Bye-bye.
day.